There's one amendment that was put on in the Senate that is of some concern, and we're fine with the bill either way. We don't oppose the amendment, but we would be strong supporters of the bill, even if the committee sees fit to remove that amendment. And other than that, Mr. Chairman, just happy to have the opportunity to express our support. We think it recognizes a need that exists out there because 7,500 years ago, we did a lot of things like power lines with a handshake. And we'd be better off if we did more of those today, but unfortunately, we're in a different world, so we need to be able to legally verify some of these arrangements.
A handshake meant a lot more in those days.
Certainly did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. McGagan. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, Kelly Carpenter, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation, also sitting in support of this bill, would like to echo a lot of Mr. McGagna's comments regarding the bill. We value the balance it strikes between protecting private property rights and maintaining affordable and reliable electrical services throughout the state. We also value the collaborative process this bill went through leading up to the session. That's really important. And to echo what was said on Friday, that's how legislation should be made. So again, sitting in support of this bill, we hope it moves forward. Thanks, and I'll take any questions.
Ms. Carpenter. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any other public testimony on Senate File 99? Anyone online, Libby? No one online. With that, we'll close public testimony. Members? Okay. Bill's been moved by Representative Lawley and seconded by Representative Larson. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Lawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to propose an amendment on page 6 to delete lines 7 through 11. This was not part of that collaborative agreement that you just heard about. This was put on in the Senate side. So again, not really vetted fully. And here's my concerns about the amendment. First of all,
I'm sorry, did we get a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. May I speak to
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, this is really an abrogation of the sort of how things really work. And to take out negligence in a situation where there's not an exclusive easement in particular is not a wise thing to do as a matter of public policy, in my view, because you have the landowner using that property around the easement. They're allowed to use it and continue the work they're doing. And in that regard, it's important that we follow the normal kind of tort law that begins with the idea of negligence. The other thing that would be an unintended perhaps consequence of taking out negligence would be the loss of insurance coverage. So what we would have is there's a situation where landowner is negligent, somehow creates a problem either with the power line or with something underneath the earth, and again, is shown to be negligent, then their insurance coverage would cover that negligent act. If we take negligence out of this bill, it would not be covered. And all of those ratepayers along the way would have to pay for the costs of that damage. So it's just not a good policy move in my view. And again, I ask for your support on the amendment.
Okay, any discussion? Any discussion?
Question.
Question being called. Members were voting on amendment to delete on page 6, lines 7 through 11. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that has passed. Any other amendments? I have one on page 7 after line 20. We discussed this last week. This is a notification to the people that this is coming about. So on after line 20, I would like to insert subparagraph G. Before an electric utility is granted a non-exclusive easement under this section, the electric utility shall publish a notice prior to the easement's enactment date in a local newspaper or customer newsletter. Go ahead, Harris, second.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion on that?
Could you just read it one more time, Mr. Chairman?
Faster or slower?
Slower. Preferably slower. but-
All right. Before an electric utility is granted a non-exclusive easement under this section, the electric utility shall publish a notice prior to the easement's enactment date in a local newspaper or customer newsletter. And this was after our discussion last week. It was just to let the public know that this was happening so that they're not surprised when all of a sudden an easement is recorded that, you know, they weren't the original landowner and all of a sudden they have it recorded on right away on their land. So any discussion? Seconded by Representative Larson. Hearing question coming?
Yep.
Question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any other amendments or discussion about this bill?
Question.
Question being called. We are voting on Senate File 99 prescriptive easements for electricity delivery amended. Mark?
Representative Campbell,
Excused.
Representative Knapp,
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Lawley,
Aye.
Representative Riggins,
Aye.
Representative Schmidt,
Excused.
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Weber,
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Aye.
The vote is 7-2.
All right. Thank you. So that has passed. I assume one of the House representatives, the only one we have is, there's no House representatives on that bill. So Senator Cooper,
That's right.
but this is for the Senate File 99. There's no co-sponsors. So Senator Cooper, is he still in here? Okay. You'll just need to find someone in the House to carry that.
I'll do it. And then I'll-
Okay. And JD Williams, you volunteered too, didn't you? I saw your eyebrows raise. That was like in an auction. That's enough.
A lot of movement for Monday.
All right. All right. Senate File 54, Senator Rothfuss. This is not the first time you've been in front of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Senate File 54, State Banks and Speedy Conversions. Speedy is a special purpose depository institution. This is the work of the Blockchain Select Committee, but recall, since it relates to Title 13, we can't sponsor it as an originating committee. We have to bring it to the Minerals Committee for sponsorship. And this was not something that we did during the off season because there wasn't sufficient timing. This bill is very straightforward. It's a housekeeping type bill. We have conversion statutes for financial institutions existing based on what type of financial institution you are now in statute. So if you're a trust, there are mechanisms to convert to a state chartered bank. If you're a state chartered bank, there are mechanisms to convert to a trust. We just worked during the interim with the banking commissioner to provide a mechanism to convert from a state chartered bank to a Speedy Bank or from a Speedy Bank to a state chartered bank to provide an appropriate mechanism in case entities wanted to do that. There is nobody right now that wants to do that, to my knowledge, but it was one of those, this is an appropriate thing to have in statute. We should have the capacity to make a conversion. You shouldn't have to eliminate your bank and recharter if you want to do a conversion. And that's what would have taken place. And there was one party that was interested in looking at it about a year and a half ago, which was what got us talking about it. And I don't think that party's interested in it at this point in time. So I'm happy to walk you through the nuances of the bill, but it is just statute that was mostly copied and pasted from other provisions and structured with the Banking Commission to ensure that they have full review authority, go through process in association with the Banking Commissioner And so it's fairly straightforward language consistent with statute. So at your pleasure, I can go into more detail, or I'm sure the banking commissioner is here. There he is. He can probably do a better job of that than I can, but there's
Your
There's-
choice.
nothing scary about this. Well, I'd probably have Commissioner Bishop talk through the process. He'll give testimony anyway. I'll stop there though and answer questions.
All right. Any questions for Senator Ruffus? Senator, just one question. Rather than coming through the blockchain or a bill committee, you chose to bring in an individual bill. What
Yeah.
was the thought process there?
Sorry, my apologies. That was unclear at the beginning. We cannot sponsor Title 13 legislation based on how our statute is written. Title 13 legislation can only be sponsored by the Minerals Committee. So this is a Title 13 bill. We would have, if we had finished it early, we would have brought it to the Minerals Committee and offered it as an opportunity for the Minerals Committee. But just based on, you'll recall, we didn't have the third meeting.
Mhm.
So we finished this bill after the Minerals Committee finished its final meeting.
Okay.
So therefore, we just brought it as an individual bill signed on by the members of the committee. And the same will be true of the next bill, which is a Speedy Bank related bill also.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that
And
explanation.
Mr. Chairman, as a reminder, and I talk about Speedy Banks, a special purpose depository institution is a specially chartered financial institution in the state of Wyoming. It's one of a kind. No other state has anything like it. And it allows the financial institution to custody digital assets, so the cryptocurrencies, in a unique way. They are 100% reserved for their fiat currency, so they don't lend. They're not a lending bank. And that 100% reserve is what provides them with the financial stability. And then they typically work in the digital asset space. As a result of this legislation, which we passed for the first time back in 2019, we have 5 special purpose depository institutions chartered in the state of Wyoming. We'll talk a little bit more about the chartering process in the next bill. One of those institutions is now, of all of our financial institutions, the one that has the most assets in custody. It has over $2 billion of assets under custody management, mostly digital assets.
2 billion?
2 billion, yeah, which I think exceeds the rest of our banks combined. One of the larger financial institutions related to digital assets in the country, and we're proud to have them. I'll stop there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Senator. Any
Yep.
questions for Senator Ruffus? Seeing none. We've got very few people for public testimony. Hopefully we'll hear from them all. Good morning.
Good morning. Excuse me. Jeremiah Bishop, State Banking Commissioner and Head of the Division of Banking. I don't have a whole lot of comments on this bill. Echo everything that Senator Rothfuss said. It was worked during the interim. At about a year and a half ago, we had one SBDI that was interested in this. At that point, we had already had a state SBDI conversion to a trust company bill that was passed, and so this copies a lot of that same language. It just allows an SPDI to convert to a traditional bank and also a traditional bank to convert to an SPDI if they choose to. One of the things is it doesn't really change the process. For an SPDI to convert to a bank, they still have to go in front of the state banking board. That is the entity, the board that actually approves charters, and they have the discretion whether or not to approve that conversion or not. If they would like to, they could say, we don't want to do that, Commissioner, you make the decision, but it's at their discretion. So that's one of the things I definitely wanted to point out is the banking board is still the ones involved in this process. With that, I just mostly just answer questions if anyone has any.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Any questions? Inquiring minds out there? Okay. Any other testimony? Mr. Meyer? No testimony. Anybody online, Libby? Senator, you have just a lot of enthusiasm here amongst the public.
Mr. Chairman, no one's too worried about this one. I think they just want you guys to be able to get your work done.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Representative Larson, seconded by Representative Riggins. Any discussion? Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify, he answered the question I had about special use depositories. That was the distinction. That was all I really needed. Thank you.
A meeting of the minds. All right. Seeing no other discussion, let's call the roll on Senate File 54, state banks and SPDI conversions. And it has not been amended here in this body, in this committee. So, Mr. Knotts?
Representative Campbell,
Aye.
Representative Knapp,
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Lawley, she left an absentee vote of aye. Representative Riggins,
Aye.
Representative Schmidt,
Excused?
Representative Tarver,
Aye.
Representative Weber,
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Aye.
So do pass 8-1.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Let's move on to your next bill. See if we can get some more enthusiasm out of this.
Yeah, we might get some enthusiasm out of this one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Senate File 55 is our other special purpose depository institution bill, and this is speedy amendments, basically. Again, sponsored by the members of the select committee, but since it's Title 13, we didn't sponsor it as a select committee. This bill does three things, and these are probably more important. They are more important to get done in the near future. The three substantive changes, and I'll walk through the bill, it's relatively short. The first is to provide jurisdiction on appeals of decisions of the banking board to the Chancery Court, and specifically with regard to speedy bank decisions to the Chancery Court. We want the case law being built up there, so it has primary authority. We'd be adding that. The second thing is some revision on initial required capital and how the Banking Commission goes through the process of chartering a special purpose depository institution and then giving it a certificate of authority and then giving it the opportunity to operate. And that process has been in place, but the Banking Commissioner has had some challenges with nuances of the way we're currently operating it in statute. And so the Banking Commissioner asked for some changes to that. I'll walk through those. And then the third change, again, a request by the Banking Commissioner, is the creation of a fund, a special purpose depository institution resolution fund account, similar to what we do for trust accounts, where over time, through assessed fees, the Banking Commissioner would have the capacity to build up a fund that would provide capital to unwind. So that's if something goes wrong with the bank and the commissioner needs to step in because it's not FDIC insured, it doesn't have to be FDIC insured like a trust. The Banking Commissioner might need to do the work of unwinding it, and it would provide capital for that. So this is a resolution fund like we have for trusts in the state. And over time, that would simply be paid for by fees on the speedy banks. And again, just a thoughtful approach to provide some consumer and state protection. Quickly walking through the bill. On page 2, we have the additional language in the courts and purpose and jurisdiction, providing the Chancery Court with the opportunity to hear and decide appeals of the decision of the State Banking Board. On page 3, bottom of page 2 and onto page 3, we begin discussion of the steps for commencing business of a speedy bank, and it relates to when the capital requirement is in place, when you get a certificate of authority, and when you are allowed to commence business. You'll see some changes moving forward. On to page 4, similar language where we're conforming the language to become more similar to how it's done with the traditional state chartered bank. Instead of raising money, you have a plan to raise money, and then you have to have your capital in place prior to commencing business. Previously, you had to raise all your capital, and then you might take a year going through the process. And it turns out that people don't like to tie up their capital for an entire year with no ROI. So you raise the capital on paper, you do the work of establishing the charter, and then before you're allowed to commence business, you have to have all of your capital in place, which honestly makes an awful lot more sense. So you're not tying up the capital for a year with no ROI on it. Makes it much harder to fundraise. On page 4, discussion of the certificates of authority to commence business. So this is defining requirements for a certificate of authority, and the commissioner can talk a little bit more about those nuances. But again, this was a request to provide clarity between having a certificate of authority, having a charter, and commencing business, what the timeline needs to be so that they can work these things through the process more expeditiously. On to page 5, the bottom of page 5 is again related to the Chancery Court. Page 6, this is where we get to the resolution fund. You've got the creation of the resolution fund at the bottom of page 7 and conforming language at the bottom of page 6 related to supervisory fees and fees going to the resolution fund. The details of the resolution fund are as I described it. It just provides the opportunity for the commissioner to utilize those funds in the case where there's an insolvent Speedy Bank. And then the fourth thing that this bill does on page 8, the repealer, is substantive. Right now, you may recall that for the Speedy Banks, when we set them up, because they'd never been done before, we had not just a 100% reserve requirement of their funds. We actually took that to 102%. We overcapitalized them because we were unsure of how things would go. Nobody had ever made a Speedy Bank before. Now we've had Speedy Banks operating for several years. We know how it works. We have confidence in the system. And so it is time to take away the 2% over collateralization and leave it at 100% collateral. So the repealers that we have here are repealing the over collateralization of 2%. It still requires a 100% reserve bank. So you don't have the capacity to lend, and therefore you don't have the risk on the fiat assets. Then we've got an effective date, and that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay, any questions for Senator Ruffus? Not seeing any questions, Senator.
All
Mr.
right.
Bishop, you're up next. Mr. Meyer, are you going to be on deck?
No, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bishop, looks like you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Walk over a few things. Good Senator covered it very well. This is something we had asked the Blockchain Select Committee for, and we had a working group throughout the interim to put this together. That was, so the operating SPDIs all had say in how this goes, and it does just kind of provide clarity into how a SPDI obtains a charter and then opens. So currently, the banking board, like I said before, is the one that approves the charter. Once that's approved, then it comes back to the division. We give the proposed, the SPDI a list of requirements they must meet in order to receive the certificate of authority. That's what they need to actually commence business. Some of the things that are in that letter, it's pretty long, but the big one is raising capital. They have to, hire people, develop policies, procedures, actually become ready to actually open the bank. And it had kind of created a chicken or the egg problem. The biggest one is, when is capital paid in? Right now, they have to pay in capital before we even give them that certificate of authority. And just like Senator Roth said, it's created some issues for some of our SPDIs of not being able to raise capital because of this chicken or the egg problem. So this fixes that simply by making it so that you shall not commence business without having capital, among other things. So what this bill changes is, once you get the charter, instead of us giving you a list of 28 plus items that you must comply with, we give you just a handful of things. I think in statute already, it's your bylaws, you need an office location, and a list of your directors and officers. So hopefully we could have that done within several weeks after an SBDI getting the charter approved. And then separately with the existing letter, we would put that in the rule, and then maybe have some other amendment, things specific to that company of, you now have 1 year to operate, in compliance with these requirements. They're going to be the same requirements we currently have. It's just after the COA is granted. And then it puts a 12-month deadline on the SBDI to commence business within 12 months of getting the chart or getting the COA. Otherwise, the charter is forfeit. And there's also a process to get extend that deadline with approval of the banking board. So that is, if there's something operation that's kind of outside of their control, they could go to the banking board, say, hey, this, whatever the instance is, please give us an extension. If the banking board agrees, they could do so. And that's one of the things is that I like, if it takes more than 12 months to really get all this together in this space, a lot's changed after that point. And it's starting to look like your business plan really isn't actually what was approved to begin with. And so that should go in front of the banking board for them to look at it and determine why. So that's one of them. That's kind of I'd say in plain English, what this bill really does is change that process. It holds their feet to the fire a little bit with an avenue for the banking board and us to work with them as needed. Some of the other things it does, like I said, is it changes the amount of capital from 3 years estimated expenses to 1 year. That's just exactly what it is for traditional banks. Again, I think when this was first created, it was a first of its kind type of charter. So everything was bigger. This is just make things more in line with traditional banks. The resolution fund, this is something I think is very important for us. If an SBDI were to fail, there is no FDIC insurance, a traditional bank. If that bank fails, we hand that over to the FDIC. They resolve it. We don't have that for SPDIs. We pay for this out of pocket if one of these were to fail. We have other mechanisms in place already where the bank, the SBI has to pledge assets to us, but this is just an emergency savings account for us to use in case one of these fails. Hopefully never have to use it, but I'd at least like to save some money aside so that if we burn through what we have, we don't have to ask for general fund money to pay for this. This will be the SBIs paying for it themselves. And we'll establish that in the rule. This is exactly what we have for trust companies. We have 25% of the annual fees they give us go into that fund. I imagine it'll be something very similar for this. And then the repeal section. Yep, this is one of those things where it's without FDIC insurance, all deposits must be backed 100% by liquid assets. The laws that are being repealed make that 102%. The benefit that added really doesn't outweigh the operational complexities that it creates. We're finding with SPDIs that creates a lot of problems to actually account for this. Is it paid for by the bank or the customer? How do you account for it? You have to develop your accounting system to actually at all times match that. That's a lot of complexities that I'd say outweighs the benefit of this kind of belt and suspenders approach. So with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bishop. Any questions? Representative Campbell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop, and thank you, Senator, for your time. I'm a keep it simple, stupid kind of guy, so I just want to clarify. Basically, what this bill is doing is we're giving credibility to our digital currency structure. We're going to give flexibility by dropping from 3 years to 1 year, so that way we can have some money back to the folks who are investing into this. And then we're creating structure to where we can see how this is going to run. And lastly, we're creating an emergency fund from your guys' money in case we have to have an exit strategy. Am I correct?
Mr. Bishop, Senator?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I'd say that's a very good summary. Basically, it provides regulatory clarity, provides some capital relief, and allows an emergency savings account. Hopefully, it's never used, but then we'll have it.
Any other questions? Mr. Bishop, you mentioned that this reserve account is for those situations where, unforeseen, where we need to backfill some things in a crisis. But then you mentioned that this is to protect the general fund, so we wouldn't have to hit the general fund. Is the state backing this? Let's say we have a crash like happened 100 years ago. Would the state be on the hook for some of this to backstop this?
Good question, Mr. Chairman. That's unsure. So the Division of Banking, we're special revenue. We have no general fund money in our budget. So we get all of our money from the entities that we regulate. So we do have a savings account, a cash account, but we would be the ones paying for this. And if we are running out, that money has to come from somewhere. First, we would go after the companies and hopefully they pay for it first. That's why we have other things in place. So I think it's possible that if all that money is used and there's nothing left, I don't know how we could get it funded otherwise. Hopefully there's enough other options available that never happens.
So rather than being FDIC insured, you're insured through the state, essentially.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say you're self-insured. This is one of the things that some of our companies don't like is the first thing that's used is they have to put up their own money. They either have to get a significant bond or they have to pledge their own assets to the division and it's held in a third-party custodian to be used. And that's a significant amount of money, right? We make new entrants come in with $15 million that they must pledge to us. I don't imagine that there'd ever be a case where it would cost more than that.
Okay.
But possible, yes.
All right, thank you. Also, another question, you've chosen to go through Chancery Court for jurisdiction. Is there a reason Chancery Court versus other forms of jurisdictions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can do my best to answer that. I think there might be some public testimony that can cover that a little bit better. But I think that just makes it a smoother, faster process for any type of appeal. Any decision that the banking board makes, any decision that I make, if the Speedy wants to appeal that, going to the Chancery Court, this is a much faster process with people that are experts in this area. So I think that was the reason for that amendment.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much for your testimony. Any others that would like to come forward? Senator Driscoll, do you want to testify on this one? There's not many left in the audience, so we may have to rely on you to come forward. Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Matt Kaufman. I'm one of the governor-appointed liaisons to the Blockchain Select Committee, and I've served on that committee since its inception. In addition to that, I'm a partner with the law firm of Hathaway and Coons here in Cheyenne, and I've had the distinct privilege of working with many of the SBDIs that have come to Wyoming and gone through this process. So obviously here to speak for the bill, very much in support of it. And I just wanted to take a moment to respond to a little bit of the dialogue that's gone on. I was also a part of the working group in the interim that worked on this topic, and we heard and worked with every single SBDI that's currently chartered. And I would say all of these amendments were wholly supported by the entire group. So it's important for you all to know that. With respect to a couple of the things that came up, first, the timing of the capital. That's been a really big issue in this process. When companies come to Wyoming to undertake this SBDI chartering process, right now it's taking about 1.5 years to get through that process, which is a pretty lengthy period of time. And most of them are having to raise substantial amounts of capital, to do this. As Senator Rothfuss said, that timing of when that capital is required to the applicant, it's really important that the Division of Banking has ultimate control of that through the Certificate of Authority process, which the commissioner described. The reason being, it's very difficult, as you can imagine. You're trying to start a brand new bank. You need to raise $50 million or, thereabouts, but you're not exactly sure what the timing of that is. Is it pre-charter or post-charter, and when is that going to be? We've been able to work through that with the commissioner, and obviously it's been successful so far, but clarity in the statute with respect to that process, I think, is really important as we continue to grow this. Secondly, the contingency account, the 2%, that sounds like a silly thing, but it's a really big deal in practice. And the reason being, as Senator Rothfuss said, when we first passed this bill, I think we were all going way overkill, right? Because we were the first of its kind. We were trying to make this thing as absolutely safe, secure, sound as we possibly could. I mean, arguably, this is the most safe, sound financial institution model in the country, hands down. That 2% was an additional way to ensure that the institution had capital reserves met. The problem is, where does that 2% come from? And as a bank starts getting deposits and scaling, that 2% isn't really their own capital, so they have to go ask their depositors for that. Well, that's a really uncompetitive thing, right? You're going to deposit $1,000 with me. Can you put in an extra 20 so I can meet my statutory requirement with the Division of Banking? That's a really awkward thing for these banks to have to work around, particularly when we have other capital safeguards if something were to happen. And so that's just become a really big sticking point. And I would just say, what you have all created here in Wyoming with the SBDI is being copied out there. Other states are adopting it or trying to. Nebraska has adopted an SBDI-like charter. States like Texas, Illinois, Utah, Connecticut are all looking at it. And so there's a little bit of a competitiveness to this. Again, we were the first ones. We've tried to build this as super conservative as we possibly could. Now we're figuring out where a few of those pinch points are as we move forward. So that's a really big one. I wanted to talk briefly about the resolution fund. Again, it is possible, as the commissioner said, that if one of these institutions failed, that there could be a substantial cost. Right now, the SBDI applicants have to put up $15 million as a pledge to the Division of Banking in the event of a failure. We have no reason to believe that a wind down of one of these institutions would cost anywhere near that much. So again, what we're asking for is to give the commissioner flexibility to determine that on a case-by-case basis based on the risk model of some of these banks, because as you can imagine, it's a very different risk model from one to the next. And then the last question I just wanted to touch on was Chancery Court. And again, I'm obviously biased. I'm a lawyer. I work in this business, but I speak with lawyers from around the country all the time who are using Wyoming as a jurisdiction for digital asset companies, for corporate domiciles. I always joke with Senator and others that I wish I didn't have attorney-client confidentiality, because I would love to be able to share with people the conversations I have on a daily basis with people who are excited about the regulatory structure we've built in Wyoming, and they're coming. And the Chancery Court's a piece of that, a very important piece. And as the senator said, the more that we can push some of these digital asset legal issues and financial legal issues into Chancery, it helps with speed, it helps with visibility, and it helps with consistency of process, which is what most people are looking for when they come to Wyoming to do business. So again, you put all this together, it's a really, really positive upgrade for the already incredibly useful SBDI statute. But as we've spent some years now working through this, I think these changes will really help us move forward. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Any questions? Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any other public testimony? Anyone on the line, Libby? With that, we will close public testimony. Members, what's your pleasure? Moved by Representative Riggins, second by Representative Larson. Any discussion? Any question being called already? All members were voting on Senate File 55 Special Purpose Depository Institution Amendments. Mr. Knotts, would you call the roll, please?
Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Lawley, she left an absentee vote, and it was aye. Representative Riggins.
Aye.
Representative Schmidt.
Excused?
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Weber.
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
No.
Chairman, your vote is 7 aye, 1 no, 1 excused. And this would be a due pass. I would like to correct my report on the previous two bills. I should have reported the vote as on Senate File 99, 7 aye, 0 no, 2 excused. On Bill Senate File 54, I should have reported 8 aye, 0 no, 1 excused.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Senator, for being here. Senator Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
126, Wyoming Ireland Trade Commission. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Ogden Driscoll, Senate District 1. Thank you, Chairman Heiner and committee for hearing this. I think a significant bill that doesn't seem like it's very significant to start with. And listening to the last testimony, it's kind of interesting to see how it's minerals business and economic development in Wyoming's really kind of diversifying out. The blockchain end of the world in Wyoming is now pretty close to $100 million impact and 1,000 jobs in Wyoming. It's kind of fun to see you folks supporting things that do well. This is another leg on it. So I'm going to run pretty quick. We're kind of down to the end of the run. What this really does is, and I'm going to ask an amendment on it to start with. I'll ask for that, is I really would like to strip out 18 to 21, which is the only part of it that has any money in it. It'd make it where it's the legislators are serving at their own will. They're not going to be paid for it. I think that's important.
I'm sorry, where is this that you want?
I'll work through the bill, and when I get to it,
Okay.
I'll go ahead and go through it. So this is Wyoming Ireland Trade Commission, and folks, this is merely a bill, and I'm going to jump right ahead and say what it does and where it's at and why it's important. And so the purpose of the commission is bilateral trade and investment, joint action on policy issues of mutual interest, business and academic exchanges, mutual economic support, mutual investment in infrastructure, and other opportunities for mutual benefit and economic growth as defined by the commission. You might say, why Ireland? Why would we even bother with Ireland? Because it's an island, it's not very big, but it's kind of a sister to Wyoming. It's very similar. They're a very ag-based economy and very tech-based. And so a bunch of the companies that you see and do business around Wyoming that are really huge tech companies are headquartered in Ireland. It's kind of the trade end of Europe. So on a tech end, it leaves us really close. On agriculture, they're net importers of most of the ag products. Number one being they import 113 million pounds of beef a year. Montana's formed an Ireland Trade Commission. They're already reaching out, trying to figure out how to ship their beef to Ireland. It's important to Wyoming that we look at the same. Once we pull out the section of the bill that has money, this is a budget neutral. This is just truly a ground reach out handshake. Let's look at what we can do together best, education, business, otherwise. With that, you know, they're English speaking is the other nice part. They're the main part of the English speaking part of the world, and they're very close to us. I am co-chair of the Irish American Caucus, Legislative Caucus. They're good. They're reaching out to us. They want to do business back and forth as we can. The truth is, main trade they'd have with us, in my opinion, would be tech. It'd be back and forth between these companies we have here that would do tech type stuff together. With that, that's really the entire bill. It puts together, you know, it's 2 people by the governor, 2 from the House, 2 from the Senate, minority, both sides, and then 1 from the board of directors. And they'll just meet trying to further trade, 2-year terms. They hold meetings not less than once each calendar quarter. So they meet 4 times. Good part of the meeting, well, virtually all the meetings are in the United States. Montana's now I believe they're on their first year of it. The people are pretty excited that are doing it. They're actually seeing that they're going to have some trade. With that, if you go to page 5, line 18 to 21 says legislative members commission shall receive salary and reimbursement for per diem and travel expense incurred in performance of their duties on the commission. It's provided in WS 28-5101. I'd ask for you to remove that. We're set up through management council that you get a couple trips out of state. If it matters to the people, they can do it. And if not, we won't do it. That way we're not creating a burden on this. I've talked to some of your members and some of the others that have concerns about spending state money on something that actually doesn't bring anything to start with. And I think it's only fair to remove that. So with that, this really is back to fulfillment of what you do is are we going to reach out and be pro-business and pro-trade in Wyoming, or are we going to choose to not go down that path? Because this is a no-cost approach that potentially can do what the last thing does, which is using paper to create jobs and money for Wyoming. I'd stand for questions and ask for your approval.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator, for being here. On this reporting, I'm just kind of wondering, because I do see a lot of potential with this, being how Wyoming's second largest industry is tourism. And I do see there being some tourism in there. How do you have it structured yet? How is this going to be to where you work with different agencies such as our tourism department, and stuff like that as far as reporting? Thank you.
Senator?
Chairman Heiner, committee, we'll reach out and form that as we go along. My guess would be is similar to what other states have done. The first year is going to be mainly getting to know each other and figuring it out. And then the committee itself will start fleshing out action items they can do. And generally what I've seen, we did this once again with Taiwan. Seems like education is one of the first ones, and tourism, they kind of easily can trade students. They can easily reach out. Trade's the tougher one. Trade's really, it takes a strong hand in doing it. The nice part of that is Ireland's reached out. They're looking for people to buy things from. And it's basically, I think, a net export from us, them importing from us. Part of these commissions have been in place for a number of years now. These Western ones are just starting to get rolling, and I'm hoping to get Wyoming on the front end on some of our, particularly ag trade. Tourism seems to do itself. I hate to be really rude. I'm in the tourism business, and I wish I could tell you I knew how to drive tourism from another country from something like this, but I don't see huge amounts. I think it's very helpful that we do this together. But as far as spending money to bring Irish tourists here or vice versa, I think a good part of Wyoming's gone to Ireland because they're Irish based. That's the other part, is this state has an unbelievable Irish base. I look around the committee and, you see across the legislature, there's lots of red hair that I can tell that's Irish without the rest of it. I am Irish. Our family, as a matter of fact, came out of Cork, early 1800s. They were pirates. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell, but it really is, these deals at no cost is just exploratory. Is how can we potentially do something? I will tell you, and I keep going back, I watched the blockchain stuff go through. We lost vote after vote after vote on blockchain things. Everybody talked about what it might be, and all of a sudden now we're into millions and millions of dollars. That makes it where we don't have to pay more taxes. And that's really my goal, is as you folks, and that's minerals and economic development, as you support business that's good for Wyoming, that's clean. I'm not talking about things we don't like. Every dollar that we do in trade means $1 less that my business, my ranch doesn't have to pay when we got someone paying tax. And that's, you'll see me driven. I'm pretty edgy about a lot of it because my business taxes, and in particular my ranch, has been paid for by the mineral industry my entire life. And I've never taken it lightly that someone else pays my taxes, and they really do. There's no way, if we didn't have the mineral industry, that I wouldn't be taxed like Montana or South Dakota or Utah on my ranch. And so that's why you see me pushing these type things. I think they're helpful. If they fail, cost us paper. They succeed, we get some trade and we get some good things out of it.
Okay. Follow up, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator, but I think they got it. That was my concern, was with Ireland specific. That doesn't include Northern, they're a part of the UK, and I know they're a part of the EU. So I was just wondering if there was anything that was really binding or anything, because I understand the thought process with it, and I totally support that. But I also understand, I'm Scottish born, same situation, or Scottish descent, to same situation. They're under the United Kingdom and thus the European Union. So how does that interact, or does it at all? Thank you.
Chairman Heiner, committee, great question. I really should have brought that up. This is something that's really, really interesting. This is all of Ireland, and it's, as you know, Ireland's split. If you're Scotland, you get it. Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, unbelievable tension. All the tech businesses are located in Northern Ireland. This bill affects both Northern and Southern Ireland. They've reached across the boards. I was there 2 years ago when for the very first time, all 5 opposition parties sat in the same room. And it was over this very thing. Is Northern Ireland's the gateway to all of the European Union for tech. That's where they're based at, in Northern Ireland. And this opens that door for us to get into that deal. By the way, it's trade-free zone. It's duty-free for the biggest part of it. So very important, the potential that could be there on large scale. And it's not just tech, it's banking. So many of our largest banks in the United States are based in Northern Ireland. So that's their gateway to Europe. And so it's a great one. This really is it's a pull together for Ireland. Mark Daly's president of the Irish Senate. He's a close friend of mine, and he was here for Frontier Days last year for the parade with Governor Sullivan. It's the one place he's reached across, as they've tried very hard to help unite Northern Ireland and Ireland through trade, because they realize the value to them. So this helps strengthen that. There is nothing in this binding in any way. 100% of this is all voluntary, reach out, very handshake. If something should come that would be binding, it would come back in front of this body, because in order to do main end of trade stuff, I would guess someone would be sitting in front of this committee asking for authority.
Okay.
Thank you.
Representative Knapp, please, Chairman Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, welcome. My youngest daughter has a love of Ireland and has made so many trips back and forth. I thought she was the Wyoming Trade Commissioner for a while there, but I know we have a special relationship with Taiwan. Do you know of any other countries that we have done this with or would like to do this with in the future besides Ireland?
Chairman Heiner, Representative Knapp, yes, a little bit. So we've changed the Taiwan Trade Commission to the Asia Trade, and that's going to open up the Asia theater, not just Taiwan. And Taiwan was done the same way. I'm going to be upfront with you. I'm who brought the legislation on Taiwan and put it in. It was my personal deal, and it came from exactly the same way as the Taiwan government came and reached out to us. We sat down with them, worked on it, and funded a trade office. That did involve money. And we now trade a substantial amount of beef, whiskey, and other goods. Probably no beads yet, but a lot of the stuff that founded the country, we now trade with Taiwan. And after the governor and his crew made the trip last year, and by the way, they were skeptical of Taiwan trade, and they went over, and he came back and said, it needs to be a lot more in Taiwan. So now we're looking at the rest of the theater. I would hope part of the rest of the world reaches out. Wyoming, it's becoming popular, the state-to-state trade. And I will tell you, on Taiwan, we really missed. So they import 1 million pounds of beef a month, more than Wyoming's entire supply. And they reached out to us, and I tried to get us started on it, and Idaho got there in front of us, and they actually supply about 800,000 pounds of that. They also do 30 million pounds or 30 million bushels of grain a month to Taiwan. And this is for us, these low-hanging fruits for value added for our products, I think, are incredible. And I'm not as expert on figuring out how to do it. I'll be honest with you. It's planting the seed and making the ability there, make them feel like they're a friendly trade partner with us. And I think things will come. Hopefully it comes sooner. I would guess it'll take 5 to 7 years to get much honest trade. We'll get students and some back and forth. And hopefully we end up some people like your daughter that are very engaged and active trying to make it happen.
Thank you. Follow up? Over here, Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Driscoll, thanks for being here. So as part of your amendment on page 5, I'm reading through the bill. Should we also remove section 3 of the bill with that?
Look at section 3. Probably the first 4 lines on page 8, and the rest should stay, because really what it says is this has authorization in it for government employees, which are going to be part of the other ones. And basically what it says, it comes out of their salary. They're already getting paid anyway, but it gives authorization for them to do it. So the main part I'm just taking out's the legislative end, and really what we're doing is putting them at the mercy of the management council. They're probably those members can come to the management council, particularly if it involves a trip to Ireland. They're probably going to come and ask for that to be a trip that's approved by management council.
Follow up? Okay, any other questions for Senator Driscoll? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony, Senator.
Thank you so
for
much
being
for
here.
hearing it. I was in fear it wasn't going to come up, and I, bottom of my heart, thank you for bringing it up.
Well, I'm glad we could get to it. Ron, would you come forward? Libby, do we have anyone online? No one online. Okay, Mr. Meyer, up or down? All right, thank you, Mr. Meyer. Please proceed, Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to,
Please
Come up.
introduce yourself.
oh,
to the record.
sorry. Ron Goldberg, Strategic Partnerships Director for the Wyoming Business Council. There's mention in there of the Business Council doing clerical and administrative support for this commission. We had submitted a fiscal note that we estimate about 40 hours a quarter or 160 a year for that, which we can handle internally already. And we like the Trade Commission approach. It's a little bit different than how we started with Taiwan. And I think it's a good opportunity to have industry input and other partners as the commission starts looking into this. And as in the discussion previously, getting to know each other and what are the opportunities, what are the industry partners, cultural, educational, and then agency-wise. So I stand for any questions, Mr. Commissioner.
All right,
Chairman.
thank you. Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Goldberg. As the Business Council already had research and study, because Ireland's economy has been somewhat of a roller coaster and a lot of different aspects to it for the last decade or so. Ups and downs and changes in policy and disagreements. So does the Business Council already have some information and research that they've done on that particular country regarding economics?
Mr. Goldberg.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Riggins, not to that extent. I think, again, back to forming a commission, and then how do we do that research? Is it UWCBA or I do, it is at that island, kind of the entry into Europe. There are some similarities, as the good senator mentioned. And I think what we could also look at is how we leverage that positioning. For example, more of the surgical missions, we haven't done a lot, but internationally, we had a recruitment representation from our agency a year and a half or 2 years ago. Went to a ag technology industry trade show and conference in Europe, I believe in England, but also met with some Italian firearms manufacturers. And I think everybody probably saw the news at SHOT Show in Las Vegas in January that there was an Italian firearms manufacturer that was looking to open U.S. operations, and they chose Casper. And so that's starting to build there in Casper. So if that makes sense, I think we've got the opportunity with the Ireland Trade Commission, but also the easy access to Europe as we look at really surgical missions for recruitment.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I suppose that particular industry, I'd probably avoid any firearms activity manufacturing of Irish relationships. It can get a little heated at times.
All right. Do you want to make a comment to that?
No, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Goldberg, for being here. So what I'm getting out of this is the biggest opportunity along with tourism is going to be niche industries, little niche markets that we have the possibility to bring in the little underexposed markets and do the same thing with our exposure in Europe. Is that how I'm taking that?
Mr. Goldberg?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell. Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to learn a lot and collaboratively with people on the commission. I think we can really look at what are the opportunities, what are their market needs, and do that economic analysis too. You know, the good senator talked about Wyoming beef. There's a lot of Wyoming beef going to Taiwan and Asia Pacific. Right now, it's kind of under that U.S. Meat Export Federation kind of states lumped in. The goal has been to get Wyoming branded beef exported. So I think this could maybe help grow that opportunity. When the Taiwan office opened in September 2018, we had 2 small USDA processing plants in Wyoming. Today, we have about a dozen. So that effort to get the branded Wyoming beef to Taiwan drew a lot of interest here. What we did was these private processing plant operators became USDA certified, but they're small. They can't yet handle that international export for myriad reasons. But then we've got Wyoming beef in Wyoming. We've got it regionally. There's some national, there's online ordering. So if you start looking at a couple of fronts, that might grow. This takes time. It might grow that agglomeration opportunity. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Goldberg, for being here.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else to testify and no one online, I guess we'll close public testimony. Members, what's your pleasure? Moved by Representative Larson, seconded by Representative Riggins. Any discussion? Representative Larson.
I'd like to move an amendment deleting lines 18 through 21 on page 5 and lines 2 through 4 on page 8.
Okay, and Representative Larson, I assume that includes renumbering on page 8?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right, moved by Representative Larson, seconded by Representative Webb. Any discussion? Everyone understand what the amendment is? Deleting line on page 5, lines 8 through 21, and deleting and renumbering on page 8, lines 2 through 4. Is that correct, Representative?
Lines 18 through 21 on page 5.
18 through 21, yes. I'm sorry.
So, and that basically just takes away legislative per diem and salary. That's the intent of the amendment.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Representative Larson's amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That amendment has passed. Any other discussion? Question being called. Members, we are voting on Senate File 126, Wyoming Ireland Trade Commission as amended. Mr. Knotts, would you call the roll, please?
Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Lawley. She left an absentee vote and it was an aye. Representative Riggins.
Aye.
Representative Schmidt.
Excused.
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Weber.
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
No.
Chairman, your vote is
Mr. Senator, do you have anyone to carry this on the floor? There's no sponsors in the House. Okay, let me know and we'll.
Thank you very much. Can't tell you what.
Okay, with that, we will we'll adjourn. Remember, on Wednesday at noon, we have our interim topic discussion with joint with the Senate Minerals Committee.
Will that be here?
No, it'll be across the hall. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you for all your work during this session.